my name is Vin Moscato. Some of you know me as Survivor3X. Some of you are wondering what Survivor3X stands for. Well, there are three areas of my life that have been very impactful, sometimes, well, as of today, beneficial, but in the past, they nearly cost me my life. Those three areas specifically are mental illness, suicide thoughts and attempts, as well as alcoholism and addiction. But before I go any further, I've got to share a story with you. And that story is about a couple days ago. I was home and I enjoy watching talks from other speakers. And there's one company in particular, they really and truly have always caught my attention. Some of you may know, actually, almost all of you may know. The company starts with a T and ends with a D. I'm not going to say what it is, but it starts with a T and it ends with a D. And the title was My Journey Overcoming Alcoholism. Now, that's near and dear to me. There are a few things in my life that I'm as passionate about as recovery from alcoholism and addiction. And this woman got up and she started to share her experience, and she talked about how her alcoholism progressed over the years and into her 20s and then 30s, how it worsened and her intake was more, and the amount of friends that were around her became less and less. And this woman's telling my story. Alcoholism is a disease that there's little differentiation when you talk about the disease and its impact between one and the other. See, alcoholism by definition is threefold. It's a mental obsession, it's a physical craving, and it's a spiritual malady. So when I was in active addiction, I mentally obsessed about drinking. My body physically craved the alcohol, which happened to be the sugar in the alcohol. And I had this spiritual malady or soul sickness. In essence, all the spirituality that I grew up with, religion and whatnot, was non-existent. And I was fueled by sinful living. So back to this talk. So here it is. Then she talks about going into different rehabs and treatments, and some of them being high-dollar facilities with the stars out in California and doing yoga and drinking, wheatgrass and whatnot. And I'm like, that's part of my story too. I did it, except on the East Coast in Connecticut. I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for her to get into the nuts and bolts of how she recovered and how she stayed recovered. Well, the next words out of her mouth enraged me because I'm not passionate about recovery. This individual started to speak about how she found this drug called naltrexone. Naltrexone, which I'm familiar with in a pill form and the injection, because at one time I was a patient. See, naltrexone, whether pill or injection, blocks the receptors so that the craving, just the craving of the alcoholism, subsides and is reduced to the point where one may be able to abstain from drinking. The pills, not very expensive. They're generic nowadays in the United States. The injection, trade name Vivitrol, is roughly $1,500 a month, depending upon one's insurance. So here it is. Do you want to stop drinking just based upon abstinence and a prescription medication at a cost of almost $18,000 a year? A lot cheaper if you do the pills, but here's what I found that she did not cover in her talk. And let me remind you again, this is one of the biggest public speaking warehouses in the country, if not the world. And the company starts with a T, ends with a D. Did I say it starts with a T and ends with a D? Okay, I got everyone's attention again. Didn't want to lose everyone. So what she failed to say, she had some great statistics which were very accurate. 90% of people that need treatment and need recovery from alcoholism don't seek it. Of the 10% of people that do seek it, what happens? At 4 years, less than 10% of them have a sustained recovery rate. So she goes on to speak more about naltrexone and her success with naltrexone. The things that she didn't say, I'm going to share with you right now. If you stop taking the pill, the craving returns. You will drink again. It is guaranteed if you're an alcoholic. If you stop going to the injection, in my case, quickly, the cravings will kick back up and you will drink again. You will drug again. No, but she didn't share that in her talk. She made it sound as if this little magic pill, this injection, was a saving grace to alcoholism, or AUD, as it's now referred to. So here it is. I listened to a talk, and part of it is very real, I can identify with. And the other part, well, like I just did, I blew that talk out of the water. There was a lot of false information. Very ill-informed the audience was. Very little fair balance. So now I'm going to give you the fair balance portion that was unspoken. I'm going to give you the fair balance that Survivor3X experienced. See, I got sober on June 14th of 2013. It's now January 24th of 2018. I'm approaching 5 years of sobriety. I'm approaching being a minority. At 5 years or greater, less than 5% of people that walk into my fellowship have attained sobriety. Continuous sobriety. They've either gone back out and not come back, they've either gone out and come back and now they have a sobriety date, or they've gone out, landed themselves in jail, or they've died. That's how this thing works. So what's the difference in my story? Well, the journey lasted 18 years. I started drinking. I had signs of alcoholism and alcoholic drinking, but I was a hard drinker around 19. Around that time, my parents divorced. I had no coping mechanisms. I blamed years and years and years of drinking on my parents' divorce, which I hear a lot of times out in the rooms. You know, if my parents didn't divorce, if my brother, didn't do this to me, if my cousin didn't do that to me, if my employer didn't do this to me, then I wouldn't drink. And those situations amplify the disease of alcoholism. They are not the disease itself. Like I said before, I have a mental obsession, physical craving, and spiritual malady. I need what's called a mind shift. Or as the book explains, the basic text, I need to have a spiritual experience where I clear off all that information, all that life experience through steps 1 and 9 of the 12 steps, and I break through all that blockage that was blocking me off from the God of my understanding. And I did just that, and I had a psychic change of mind and body. Years would go on, though, during my alcoholism, before that spiritual experience. It would get so bad that I took some time off from drinking. And then went back to it. And then at 22 years old, my mother mandated me to go to a 12-step fellowship. She was in the process of kicking me out of her house, and the only way that I could say is if I went to the 12-step fellowship. See, I didn't go there on my own accord. And what the literature states is that if a person doesn't have their own willingness, they need to have their own willingness for the successful consummation of the program. I didn't. I pulled in the parking lot of this church. I see people smoking, drinking coffee. It was like one big gray cloud over the group and over the church. That's the best way to explain it. Misery loves company. That's what I walked into. I saw no big books. I saw no other supporting literature. I saw the steps. I saw the shades. I didn't hear anyone talking about how happy they are as a result of no longer drinking, no longer having that obsession to drink. I heard a lot of doom and gloom. Very little direction. See, the basic text tells me on page 29 that further on, clear-cut directions are provided on how we recover. So if there are clear-cut directions in this basic text, why is it so difficult to find one or find a useful meaning with that book and studying that book with others in 2018? And I'll tell you why. As human beings, we all like the easy way out. I'm just going to go to meetings. I'm just going to white knuckle it one day at a time. I got ostracized in my own fellowship for coming directly out of the book. That book I had learned as a result of a speaker tape from a gentleman by the name of Chris R. down in Ingram, Texas. When I was listening to Chris's talk, I had heard about the fellowship and about the means to recover, about the vitalness of a spiritual experience, about relapse prevention. Once again, steps 1 through 9, 10 through 12. And he talked about it so adamantly and so passionately and so clear cut that I regarded him then and his group of men and women and fellows as the same I regard them today, because they have become friends of mine, as the Navy SEALs of my chosen 12-step fellowship. Now, Navy SEALs, that's a big word, big 2 words to be using, considering that the Navy SEALs are regarded as the most fearsome fighting force, the strongest warriors in the military, the most tactically trained. Well, that goes for the same of this group of primary purpose group followers of the book and of the study guide. I wanted what they had. So I saw it and I felt it as, when all else fails, I've got to hook up. I've got to seek out the Navy SEALs of my 12-step fellowship. So I went on a journey. Once I was discharged from 18 days in the psych unit, another 6 days in rehab, I came out and I was on a mission. I was fueled with the information that was provided in those speaker tapes. And I went out to the rooms and I tried to find people that were studying the literature and applying the 12 steps, not only going through the 12 steps, but applying them in their lives. See, the literature that we use it provides the clear-cut directions to recovery. And it literally says, as you go through page by page, this is step 1. You're now at step 3. This is what you have to do at step 4. Now you have to share this information with another human being in God. And it goes on through all 12 steps. A lot of people out in the rooms are recreating their experience, their opinions. Well, I stand before you today and I say, I have little and no regard what other people's experience or opinions are on how they recovered, unless it comes directly from the literature. I don't want to hear it. People say, oh, you got to have an open mind. Well, the best thing I did to save my life was close my mind to that bullshit. Close my mind to information that did not correlate with the basic text. And you would think it's easy to find these Navy SEALs, these individuals who carry their books and study their books, have fun studying their books with others, and go out and apply it to their lives. Knowledge application. Every week, knowledge application. Learning. Constantly learning. Constantly growing. Constantly improving their relationship with their God on a daily basis. So I looked for these study meetings, and nothing ever came close to what they were talking about in the speaker tapes, studying via this study guide that was developed by the primary purpose group of Dallas in correlation with the literature. And I found groups that used the name primary purpose group of ... I walked into one particular meeting. One of the home group members got into a heated dispute with the chairperson of the meeting over a couple words in a book. That was the first time I was to that group, and that was the last time I was to that group. I would speak up with verbiage and knowledge out of the book. I would get ostracized in the meetings I attended. Week after week, my mom and other family and friends would turn around and say, Vin, why don't you just start your own meeting? Here I was up in New York, Long Island, New York, as a matter of fact. A very extremely ego-filled fellowship. Here's a statistic for you. New York is one of the least religious, least spiritual areas of the United States. That region up in the Northeast. I now live in Raleigh, North Carolina. Some call it the Bible Belt. I'm the most religious and most spiritual area of the country. Constant turnover, people in and out of the rooms up in New York. Raleigh, the group of men that I fellowship, people come in and few leave. Now you tell me if God is working here or God is working there. We're seeking God. The experience I had up there, they don't even use the word God because it makes people uncomfortable and it's so freaking politically correct. If I didn't leave, I would have drank again, and to drink for me is to die. So I say this to each and every one of you that are going out to seek long-term recovery for good and all. Individuals that want to feel like me and the group of men and women I fellowship with. One of the mottos or slogans you'll hear us say is, we don't drink a drug no matter what. No matter what. We don't pop pills and take injections to stay away from alcohol. We seek God in the 12 steps. So like I said, we all have a choice. And I made the choice to follow the directions in the book and to find those Navy SEALs of my fellowship. Well, I found him when I got to Raleigh. And then God blessed me with the ability to put together a primary purpose group of Raleigh. Where now over 20 of us every week gather to study at the primary purpose group of Raleigh the basic text and the directions and how to apply it to our lives. So for those that are, like I said, seeking to want what I have and millions of others have, when you walk into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous or Cocaine Anonymous or Opioids Anonymous, any of the 12 Overeaters Anonymous, any of the 12-Step Fellowship, find the Navy SEALs that are carrying the literature and that are smiling. These people will stand out clear as day. They will sound different than everyone else. They will look different than everyone else. They will be happy, joyous, and free, as the book promises. Happy for the day, joyous because they're standing in the grace of God, and free. Free not for one day at a time, not drinking. I can go weeks without a meeting. I'm no longer physically dependent upon meetings. They only get you so far until you drink again. Or you're made a dry, drunk, and miserable to everybody around you. And continue to be that tornado in everybody's lives. But I didn't have a drink. You're still an ass. Get away from me. I wish I was joking. I wish this was a joking matter. It's not. It's a life or death matter. So make a decision to put in the work when you leave, rehab, detox, or walk into the rooms of the 12-Step Fellowship. Find those Navy SEALs. Get a book. Get the literature from them. Follow them like your life depends upon it, because if you're an alcoholic like me, your life does depend upon it. And you can't see the bright light today. You can't stand in the sunlight of the Spirit today. But give it some time following those individuals and the directions in the literature, and you'll be standing in the sunlight of the Spirit just like I am this morning. Have a great day, and I wish you all the best in your journey of recovery or helping others to recover.